There we go.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the Exit Your Way Business Roundtable. And today we're going to be talking about, with our expert panel, we're going to be talking about building your dream team. And with me today, I've got Ben Baker from Your Brand Marketing. Ben works with B2B companies to help them engage, retain, and grow their employees through developing effective leaders and helping them build an authentic brand story. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad, Ben.
No, not too badly.
There we go. Then we've got Kelly Robinson from Ponano's. Kelly helps SMBs attract and retain top talent. She's also got a podcast called All Things Hiring. You can find that in a lot of different places. If you need to, just ask her in the chat. She'll send that to you. She's also got a virtual advisory board called MyVab that helps small businesses with an expert panel throughout the life of their businesses. So great to have you here today, Kelly.
Thanks, Stephen.
You bet. All right. And next we have Lisa Sordilla. Lisa is the VP of Engage at an HR software company that helps businesses recruit and retain the right talent. She's led the HR function in high growth companies with an emphasis on recruiting highly sought after talent, which is what we're talking about today. Most notably, she was part of the team that grew Pet 360 from $50 million to $50 million to $130 million when they sold to PetSmart in 2014, which is really cool. I mean, you've been through one of those things. That's quite an effort.
Hopefully you had 10% stock.
Yeah. So welcome, Lisa. Glad to have you back again. So awesome to have you here.
So happy to be here.
Good, good. Well, everyone, if you haven't been here before, put your LinkedIn links in the comments. If you haven't associated with your account already, so people connect with you, do that. We are just so happy to have our panel here today talking about building your dream team. For those of you that have been under a rock for the last 3 months or on Mars with Elon, which will be a cool place sooner than later.
Yeah.
I just ran a couple numbers. This is pretty interesting. In December 2019, there were 5.8 million unemployed in the United States. Mm-hmm. And last week, that was around 21 million. So there are a lot of people that are available on the market today that A, had no idea they would be on the market, but B, that are very talented, that we should be looking at what can we do as businesses to, set our businesses up right to attract them, because there's a lot of, whether we like it or not now, there's competition because the unemployment compensation is fairly decent right now. Competition from other businesses, competition because they might just want to stay put rather than and see if they get off a furlough or something like that, and rather than change companies. So I think we have to be attracting them with the right branding and stuff, and that's why we've got Ben here. And then I think the whole recruiting process and how we go out to find those people. That's why we've got Kelly here to talk about that. And with Lisa is how do you really find them at that point, but then retain them? What do you do? What are the kinds of things that companies need to do to keep those people around and really motivate and engage them and do the things that they need to do? So awesome stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So I'll let you guys on the panel take over here, and maybe we'll start off with Ben and just your thoughts on, well, let's see. I'm going to ask a question and you guys can do it. So if I've got a company today, what is the first thing I should think about if I want to really start to go out and recruit some of this talent that's on the street? And I'll just put it to the panel, and let's start there.
Ladies, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Can I preface this with something?
Sure.
Yeah.
then Ben, I would love for you to jump in. But I think today what we're finding out is when I talk to people, especially candidates that are looking, because there's a lot of them. So my role as a recruiter is usually I'm retained by a client, but now I have a lot of people saying, "Can you help me?"
Mhm.
It's not just unemployment; it's the people in the roles that are learning how their company is not engaging them
Yeah.
in this whole COVID thing. So this gives us, everyone's virtual now. It's a different way. So this is the opportunity for companies to start really putting what we're going to talk about today into place.
Yeah, I mean, the big trick is most people don't understand what their brand is. They think the brand is the message they're pushing out instead of how people perceive their brand. And it's far more important how people perceive you than what you think about yourself as a company or as an individual. And the problem is a lot of companies out there, they're saying one thing, and then when people engage with the company, whether it's employees or customers or vendors, whoever, they're seeing something completely different. So the first thing that we need to do is get the people and the purpose within the company aligned to be able to make sure that everybody understands what the true value of the company is, where it was, where it is, where it's going, how those people inside the company belong. Because those are your best brand ambassadors. Your employees are your best brand ambassadors, because anybody who is top talent is going to find somebody within the company that they're on LinkedIn with it, or they're on Facebook with, or they know somebody and they're going to get a, and they're going to ask people inside the company, so what is it really like working here? Because if they don't, they're not doing themselves any good, they're doing themselves a disservice. So if there isn't that right story inside the company and people don't believe in that story, companies are not going to be able to attract the right people.
Yeah. So Kelly and Lisa, do you see that now?
Absolutely.
Well, go ahead, Lisa.
It's going to be even more important coming out of a pandemic for people to really know who they are as a company and why people would want to work there, because if they're not attracting the right people, they're going to have turnover, all of those things. But that's also how you retain employees that have pride in where they work and morale. That's how you retain those employees, and that's how you get employees that are engaged and they're going to give their best to you, which is what we all need to not just survive but to thrive. Is we need people that are able to fulfill their potential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when companies talk about marketing, when I'm working with a company and they want me to do some hiring, I'll say to them, well, what kind of, branding do you have? And from my point of view, I'm talking about to potential employees and for current employees, not for clients. And they'll say, oh, we have lots of stuff. Do you want these one-pagers? And to Ben's point, I talk about, no, we need an employer brand. And that's about capturing the talent that you want in-house. And then that moves, so the messaging starts in recruiting and goes all the way to employee engagement. And so you have to have the branding all the way across as an employer, not just for your clients, but to potential candidates that become employees.
Yeah. And it's not color scheme. It's not logo. It's not a pithy phrase. It's who are you as a company? What do you truly believe in? What's the hill that you stand on? What are the charities you're involved with? How do you treat your employees? How do you go to market? Where is your value statements? And do people within your company truly believe this? You may have all this wonderful thoughts about what your company is all about in the C-suite, but if everybody in the company doesn't think the same that you do, nobody's going to be able to tell the story of your brand to potential employees, let alone customers.
But I think there's so many misperceptions too in the C-suite, because people do think they know what people think about their brand and how their employees feel, but they're really not checking in, right? Or they don't have tools to use to check. Like Lisa's company that's what Energage does, right? It's like, hey, wake up to here's what your culture is saying.
Or what
which
your
is really-
culture isn't saying.
Yeah, we talk about having clued in employees. So employees, they know the direction of the company, they're on board with it, as well as leaders, clued in leaders. If your senior leaders have no idea what's really happening at the company, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Well, as your leaders throughout the company don't know. I mean, everything from your frontline leaders all the way up. If everybody isn't singing from the same song sheet, if everybody doesn't believe the same things and have the same values, you're going to have breakdown, throughout the company.
Yeah. Yeah. And Johnny brought up to it with us more than one time of using surveys in what we do.
Like what do you guys think is the most effective way to kind of get a finger on the pulse of just like how the culture? Because, obviously when you don't really hear the discussions behind closed doors or when they're talking to friends. Oh, how do you like working there?
Mm-hmm.
So what's a good anonymous way to really get a pulse on how people feel the environment is?
I mean, I think if you have a relationship, that's the best way to really build a trust.
Yeah.
But to start, a survey is a great way, anonymous, because it helps you facilitate those conversations and ask the right questions. Because sometimes you don't know what you're missing. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. So it helps you to facilitate. Lisa, you probably have seen that, right?
A lot. We tend to survey a lot. And so, it's very insightful. And you've got to keep doing, you have to condition your employees to that too. Like that means you have to show them what you're doing with that information. And it doesn't mean that, the employees rule and whatever they put in the survey is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
It just means that maybe they don't understand the reason why you're doing things the way you are. And maybe you need to communicate that in multiple different ways so that everyone understands. So it's really an iterative process.
I bet. Okay, sorry, Damon, go ahead.
No, I bet it is. And I was just going to say, and it seems like that might be almost, because I'm thinking through the logical steps, because you got a gazillion companies out there that aren't doing this well. So step number one might be talking to people first of all, but then doing a survey of some sorts to get a broader scope of it. But what are some of the basics that you should cover when you talk about, okay, we kind of got an idea of our culture, then it's step two. What do we need to do to make the changes? Do we start communicating? What do we do? And then how do you project that outward too? So if somebody's looking at your company, because you have to talk with your employees, but you also have to digitally show that as well.
Yeah. Let me just step that back just 1 second. Is that
good?
When you're going out and doing surveys, and I agree, surveys are a good first step. They're a line in the sand. They give you a litmus test about where you are. But you have to have commitment as an organization that what comes out of that survey, you're going to communicate back. We heard you, we listened to you, we understand you. And by the way, we can do this, but we can't do this. And this is why. And this is something that's available in Q1, and we can go ahead and do this, but we may not be able to get to this until Q4 next year. And this is why. When people get a survey and then it goes into a vacuum and you never hear anything again, nobody's ever going to take a survey ever again. Nobody's ever going to give you, reliable information ever again. If as a company, you just throw the survey out because you said, oh, okay, I need to do a survey. Okay, check box. Fine. I sent the survey out. Okay, check box. I'm a wonderful woke employer. I've gone and surveyed my employees. Black Lives Matter, everybody. Black Lives Matter. But it's sitting there going, you need to actually believe it. You need to sit there and say, okay, these are the real concerns of our employees. Mm-hmm. We need to listen to them and we need to do something about it. We may not get everything done, but we need to say, this is what we can do. And this is why what we can't do. And this is why, and then get our employees engaged to sit there and say, you, and you, we want you to get involved in this and be able to spearhead this committee to be able to move this thing forward. So it's about getting employees engaged. Once you have the results saying, okay, I want to get these people involved, you need to form your own committees and I need you to spearhead this, because that's really important.
Yeah, that's a good point. The point that I heard in this is that you've got to follow up and respond to the results of the surveys to everyone involved. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that, hey, I was the originator of surveys like this in companies I was managing, and we didn't do a good job of that. And I just feel horrible about that now. But I can see how it's powerful when you do and you communicate, like Ben said back, things that we can work on. These are not. This is the direction we're going, and use that as the survey gives you the basis for the first steps to take.
We got a
Cool.
question here in the Q&A. Well, a few questions, but one is, what are some good ways to accurately gauge your employees' perception of what you're saying? And then also follow up to that was, are you using a third party for the surveys to help maintain anonymity?
Lisa, that's good.
I can, from our point of view at Energage, we strongly recommend using a third party because of just that. You want your employees to trust that it is going to remain anonymous, and you want them to give candid feedback. So we strongly recommend that, and we would not recommend doing a survey if you don't intend to do anything with it.
Yeah.
And you have to, been in HR long enough to have grown thick skin. You have to have thick skin to really hear what people have to say. And that's probably one of the, hardest parts about it. You have to be open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. You kind of have to look at it objectively and not take it personally, like,
Mhm.
oh, you're doing a bad job, right?
Yeah.
It's I can do a better job. It's not I'm doing a bad job. I can do a better job.
And Kelly, a direct question for you is, you were discussing about a company's brand and importance for recruiting the best talent. How often do you find B2B recruiting clients that refuse to accept that?
I don't think it's that they refuse to accept it, but if they don't want to me to help them with it, and I'm not an employer branding person, but I can give them a lot of ideas, starting with just a careers page, right? After you've done the survey and all of that. But if they get some exposure to me doing a little bit for them, like creating the right messaging, interviewing some of their internal team to kind of put together that message, and then send it out to the world, they soon become a believer.
Yeah.
But they have to see that value. A lot of times recruiting is not really so important, right? So it's like, you want us to spend money on what? But it's really part of employee engagement long term. So that's where companies will start to listen.
Well, how many people do they miss out on because, in your estimation, because you're reaching out to potential employees all day long? How many times you get an assignment and your best candidates go and look at their website or their social media or whatever else and are underwhelmed and just say, "Nah, I pass."
Yeah. So I have a client that I've worked with that will not listen because the situation, and it's actually not about their media at all, their social media. It's more about their, does anyone else hear that?
Yeah, there's almost like construction in the background.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone wants to mute, but so it's not around that. What it's around is the compensation package that they're offering is really low because they offer the equity, but it's not worth anything. So they're like, well, that's great. They should be able to take a cut in their salary. And this is what they want the messaging to be, that's okay because they're going to get it on the back end. But what they don't realize is some people, that's what they need to live. It's not okay because they can't wait until they vest and then hope they get something from it. So even that kind of messaging sends the wrong message into the world that, well, we think you should just be just like us. We're okay with it, so you should be. And it really should be a give and take. And it should be listening to what, I keep sharing the feedback, and they're not the right people then. They're not the right people.
And
talent.
And I would add, and I've worked with Kelly, so working with someone like Kelly brings a lot of value to your company, having that outside in view. and also knowing, the market, but they can take a look at your organization and help you really frame how to market it externally because they're so in touch with the market. But I think that outside in view is so important, and sometimes we get so busy doing our thing that we don't, stop to appreciate that. So I think for me, that's been a great way is to create partnerships with people like Kelly that can really get to know your organization. And frankly, I won't work with companies that don't take the time to ask me those questions and get to know.
Yeah.
We have a really good question here, and it's something that I was actually going to ask. And I've been sourcing, candidates for the last 3 roles that I've had, and always they're bringing up Glassdoor, other reviews, and I've seen a lot of different approaches to, which usually are just they try to, let's get a bunch of people to write good reviews, and then that'll offset the bad ones. But how do you address the bad reviews that have been left on Glassdoor? Because I believe people are more likely to leave a bad review than a good review.
I mean, here's my thought process on this. People are going to talk. Either you're controlling the conversation or at least steering the conversation, or somebody else is.
Mm-hmm.
And your job as a company, as a branding, as a marketing department, as a communications department, is to put the best face forward that you can. And it's got to be authentic. If you've got a lousy culture, if you've got no purpose, if you've got lousy communication within the company, if people are disgruntled, it doesn't matter what information you put out there, because guess what? Those same employees are posting on Glassdoor, they're posting on Yelp, they're posting, everything out there, and they're talking to their friends, they're talking to their beer buddies, they're talking to people on their baseball league, they're talking everywhere. I mean, right now, you have companies doing horrific things that are, they're supposed to be these unicorn, wonderful companies, and they fired 420 people in 120 seconds on a Zoom call, without even turning their camera on. People will talk about that. It doesn't matter how good a face you put out there. If you're not, living the dream internally inside the company and say, we really truly believe our people are first, and just saying it, people will find out. So I would rather see a few bad comments on Glassdoor, because it's like everything else. If you see, take a book review, for example, and you see that you have nothing but 5-star reviews through that entire thing and not one bad comment whatsoever, you're going to say they bought it. They must have bought it. If they've got 250 or 500 reviews and there's not one bad one, they must have bought all these reviews. Yeah. But if there's a couple of people out there that are, that sit there and say, well, you know what? It's really a 3 out of 5. It's not really that good. You're going to have people within any company that are disgruntled. You're going to have people within any situation who are not the happiest employees. But it's a matter of looking at it. If 90% of the people are happy and 10% of the people aren't, you're going to sit there and say, okay, the vast majority of the people in this company really like where they work. Maybe I should take a look at it. But if it's 90-10 the other way, nobody's going to accept a job there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kelly and Lisa, this is a good point, because I've had many clients that I've talked to them about Glassdoor and they go, glass what? So I mean, how many people do you talk to that are candidates are reviewing Glassdoor?
Not as many. Wow. Yeah, for me, not as many as there used to be. But I will say, to Lisa's point, they might not be saying it to me in the process. They might say it to Lisa. Now, once they get into the company, they might be saying, that's when they're probably looking at that. I had a client, just a Glassdoor story. I had a client who had horror. I mean, it was terrifying. But the company knew the issues, and they had made major changes to try to affect change, especially after reading some of those. So we put together a whole campaign for how they should be responding really transparently to them. But also what we did was, my team on the first call with the candidate, we would address it. We would say, this is what you're going to see, but let me tell you what we've done. We have a new CEO. We have a new sales leader. Perfect. We have and this is what we're doing. We're doing this, this, and this. So you can address it right up front if it's bad. But Lisa, what's your experience when they come to you? They
Yeah, I think-
have read it.
Like what Ben said, you have to address it and you have to know where your culture does stand. And that's why we survey so much, to really understand and leverage that. And then you have to leverage those employees, and you have to address it. And each candidate is, depending on their experience level, is going to have a different stance on that, right? If they've worked at other companies and they've seen that, then they know, kind of that there's going to be some people that are writing those reviews that are going to do that just because that's who they are. But they know that there's a lot of people that really love working there that would never even think of writing those reviews. So they're going to weigh that. But I think you have to handle that at an individual level, but you do need to be upfront about it, and you can't try to hide it or be defensive or dismissive.
I think you're always going to have the haters. We're going to have the negative people. And so like Ben said, if there's 1 or 2 negative people and, 30 really great reviews, that's what you go with. Even, like Ben said, on a book or even on Amazon, when you're reading stuff before you buy, you're always going to have those people. You just are.
We have
and the one thing you need to really pay attention to, and this is a big thing, is that if you are going to do, and this is going back to your point about an employee recruitment page and the brand page, if you're going to use employee testimonials, if you're going to make sure that you're going to do employee testimonial videos or any of that kind of stuff, you need to make sure that you get sign off from those people, that you have some type of a legal sign off from those people, because if you don't and they leave, you can have real big problems. So you need to make sure that if you're going to use employees in any way, shape, or form on your website, on any of your communication, on any of your testimonials, etc., that you have a release from those people. Because if all of a sudden 2 years down the road they become disgruntled and they leave, and you still have them up on your social media platform, that can create havoc as well.
Yeah. Yep. And Johnny, you were going to bring something up there from the chat
here. He was saying, do you find that business leaders understand the value of their brand from the customer's perspective, but not nearly enough from the perspective of their employers or employees?
Say that again, just so we got it.
Do you find that business leaders understand the value of their brand from the customer's perspective, but not nearly enough from the perspective of the employer brand?
Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly what. So when I say to them, tell me about you, like all they do is talk about their clients. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about how they're trying to attract talent. Mm-hmm. And it's different messaging, because quite frankly, people go to places where they want to work. They don't really care what you're selling at the end of the day. If they feel rewarded and passionate about what they're doing, that's all they care about. They want to be in a place where they feel successful and they're contributing.
But the values have to be the same. There has to be there's one brand. There's one brand, whether you're talking to employees, whether you're talking to vendors, whether you're talking to customers, whoever, you have one brand. This is who you are. And that message has to be consistently communicated, and that story needs to be told everywhere in order for it to be authentic. And it has to be lived everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Ben. So philosophy I have as a leader is, if I take care of my team, they'll take care of our customers. I never have to worry about the customer, but I need to take care of my team in the same way that I want them to take care of the customer. I think that's what Ben's saying. So it's the values.
Okay. Cool. So, and I just forgot my change. Oh, here we go. Came back to me again, as usual. So when we talk about, I hear values come up, and it used to be years ago, we would talk about mission statements and things like that. But as we roll forward, and I know we've got at least one EOS implementer on here, we talk about core values. Do you think that it's more important that when we talk about companies and branding, that we really, really understand our core values and then just communicate on a small subset of core values across the board and try to really do that? Because that does what Kelly says. It shows us how we treat our internal people and the external customers.
Well, I saw the other day a company that I was talking to that had 37 core values. And you're sitting
Oh,
there
yeah,
going,
that's what- I mean,
how
like,
is
I'm talking-
anybody supposed to remember 37 core values
Yeah,
and what they mean and be able to repeat them and be able to internalize them? I'm on a mission to kill mission, vision, value statements.
Yeah.
You know, that's my role in life,
Okay.
is to absolutely destroy mission, vision, value statements. There's nothing wrong with the philosophy behind them. The problem is nobody remembers them. Nobody can repeat them. Nobody lives them.
Yeah.
If you have a brand story instead that talks about where you came from, where you are, who you serve, why you serve, where your value is, you know, what are the true core values of the company and where you're going, everybody can internalize that. Everybody can start telling that story from the I point of view. And when your employees start telling the story from me instead of we, it's all of a sudden it becomes real for them. And that's where the passion comes in.
I see what you mean. Yeah, tying it together with a story makes it easy for people to relate to and understand. And as Alon talked about a while ago, you can create
exactly. There's the emotional connection
with people if you do it.
I think, you know, core values are, and sorry I was late today, but core values, you know, really, if they're done right, explain who you are and who your people are. So, and I think, you know, people want to know, you know, that's a big important factor. Who am I going to work with every day? Because if they aren't the right people, they're out of there. It's miserable, right? So, and that gives them a light, sheds a light on that area.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, you know, I think backing up to this again, and I always kind of do this because we got a lot of people that work with a lot of businesses out there. So Kelly, you mentioned a career page. I mean, and Ben, obviously the branding and stuff. So, you know, I see so many business websites that are, I mean, sizable businesses. I mean, $50 million businesses, and they got a career page and it's got 3 open positions on it. Looked like it was updated 5 years ago, and doing that. What when you talk about career pages, what do we really need to be communicating on those career pages?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. So to Ben's point, I love to have videos, and it shouldn't be the same videos all the time. Like we can, and they need to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
So we're not putting any words in anyone's mouth. They need to write a script, or even just, you know, if they're able to just
Free
go
bullet.
with the flow. That's right. It needs to be a place where there can be some employee engagement. So you could share some kudos of your team. So presenting like how you're treating your internal employees is great on a careers page. That's your opportunity to the outside world before, you know, someone internally as a recruiter or HR person will reach out, or me. That's how people will go to your website first. You know, they go to LinkedIn too. Yeah. So company pages are really, really important. Usually they go to LinkedIn, then they go to your website. But so I've seen companies not even have a careers page. That's terrible. Yeah. So I think there is where you talk about who we hire. These are the types of people that we hire. You know, you do have job openings, of course, but that's where you're branding, like company functions. Here's what we do, or you know, you're trying to highlight what you're doing internally, because the outside world needs to be, that's how you're attracting them, but it has to be authentic.
Well, it's what are the events we get involved with? What are the charities we get involved with? What are the, you know, how do we engage with the community? You know, it's all of those things that sit there and say, we're not just a place where people come from 9 to 5. You know, we believe in, these are the 3 charities that we support, and this is why. You know, this is the organizations that we get involved in, and this is why. You know, and
how do we have fun?
Sorry, what was that?
How do we have fun?
Exactly.
How do we blow up steam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other is like the ping pong tables and that kind of stuff isn't really pulling people in anymore. Yeah. That stuff, no one, you know, no one. The people that are using that, you probably don't want employed anyway, to be honest. It's like that kind of stuff. We have beer in our office. That's great. That's something you could share in an interview, but don't put that on your website. You don't want those people that are attracted to just.
Well, those are perks, but those are not the things that people are going to connect to, or is going to, you know, help them live up to their potential.
Yeah.
They may be table stakes, and depending on the industry that you work in, but those are not your attractors. If you're using those, then you're probably going to attract the wrong people.
Yeah, free beer Friday as something that you lead with is not exactly how you recruit the right people.
No.
Well, I've actually seen that as a way to recruit people and underpay them. In Seattle here, it happens. And as a tech startups, I mean, that's common. Oh yeah, we have all these great events, and you look at the wages are 40% less.
Frat culture.
Market on
that's an easy transition from their undergrad right into this environment where it's okay to start drinking at 3:00. In a team building exercise.
That's right.
It's not, Johnny.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you instead of the coffee in the morning, you went right for the beer tap.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat I think we should address about aligning candidate values with the company values. And I can just talk at Energage, we talk about our purpose, and our purpose is making the world a better place to work together. And we do talk to candidates about that in the interview. I can tell you for myself, when I saw that on the wall, I said, I'm the person for this job. You should hire me, because that's my personal mission as well. So it is important, but I will also say from an HR perspective, you still have to make sure that the job is the right match for the person. So because they can be so enamored with the purpose or the values of the company, but if the day-to-day doesn't line up, that's a problem too. So I agree that you should search for that.
And you just touched on something that I want to get into, is that are we hiring people for positions anymore, or are we looking to hire people because we see that they have potential to grow within the company? Because the problem is when we hire people for a position, when they outgrow that position and we haven't thought about, okay, what's next for these people, that's when people get frustrated, and that's when they leave. So we need, and I'll let you talk about that, Kelly.
Yeah, I think it depends on the position.
Yeah.
If we're looking to build a call center and we need 30 or 60 people, and their job is to be on the phone, and that works great within their personal life, and they don't want to do anything beyond that, you're hiring for the job. You need to make sure they match your culture. That's really important. Whatever kind of attributes that you're looking for overall is really important. But if you're a smaller company and you need people to grow, you need to look for the people that can grow with your company. Because if you're hiring, I just talked to someone last week, and he basically got rid of his entire workforce because as a startup, he found these really great people, but they could not grow with his company, right? They were like friends and family, and he ends up with like 30 people, and they can't grow with him.
And then he can't fire them because they're friends and family.
And it was even harder to do that. He had to finally do that. So you can't hire people because of one or the other, really. It's got to be a good match, and you've got to figure out, is it for growth or is it just for this job? You need some of those, players that just want to do a job.
Yeah, but you have to know that going in. What is the reason why you're hiring this person? Why are you hiring this person? It's like, I know a woman who's an executive assistant to the president. And she's phenomenal. She has absolutely no intention to do anything else for the next 20 or 30 years that she's going to be in this company, because she is the power behind the power. She knows what she does. She does it extremely well. She's read in on stuff that sometimes the vice presidents aren't read in. And she is incredibly efficient at what she does, but she's not looking to go anywhere else. That's what she does. Maybe she'll get recruited by another company, but she has no desire to do anything else within that company.
And we had a hand raise.
Hey, guys,
we've got
you had a question for the panel.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of get your perspective, guys. Part of when with the hiring and the promoting and within, I mean, there are companies that I've worked with that have a clear understanding, even of the breakdown of their percentage, what they consider for their business is the right mix of build or buy, for example. And they say, you know what, this is what we promote from within. This is what our goal is versus this is the fresh perspective that we want to bring from the outside. And they have a clear delineation of what ratios they should be looking at. So for many of you that are in that recruiting sphere, for this panel, for Kelly, for Lisa, even for Ben, for you as you consult from this, do you first of all help them identify what the ideal thing is? Because each one of those options has a different benefit. If you have, for example, a very, very strong culture, a very strong story, Ben, that your company has, and your employees really buy into that and they're part of that story, part of that journey, promoting from within is the likely way to go, because that continuation, you can't teach that story to somebody else. If you have a company that is constantly changing or has a skill set that is with employees that's interchangeable, or they want to pad their resume, then you buy from outside. Just wanted to get your thoughts first and foremost about that, and then I have a follow-up question.
Lisa probably can answer that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in. I think it depends on your where your business is in their growth and what you need. So if you're aligning your talent strategy with your business strategy, then you'll be able to identify that mix. It's a balancing act for a small business. When I can speak from my experience at Pet 360, when we had to be really, really scrappy, but we needed people to do things that they hadn't done before. So, we identified the strategic hires that were going to be external, and we identified opportunities internally, and then created training programs or mentoring programs to help people get to those next opportunities. And I think the most important thing is you have to be honest with your employees about that, because you can't go out and just use your recruiting strategies. Oh, we promote from within all the time, but if they have their eye on a certain position, but they're not going to be the person that helps get you from where you are to where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think just being honest with your employees is an important piece of that as well, because you don't want to bring someone in and then everyone else resents them and makes them unsuccessful. So it's a balance. It's a delicate balancing act, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mentioned one important thing. It's the mentoring, the coaching, it's the building of the teams internally, because there's so many companies that promote from within and don't give people the skills and the tools that they need to be a better leader as they move forward. And I see this, all the time when I'm training leaders, is that there's so many people out there that just assume, well, this person was really good tactician at what they did, obviously they're going to make a good leader of that department. Well, they may be good at what they do, but are they good teachers? Are they good motivators? Are they good communicators? And the answer in a lot of respects is no. And the reason they aren't is because no one's coached them. No one's taught them. They haven't had somebody that was leading them that taught them, okay, these are the skills you need to have if you want to move up. If you want to move up, these are the things. And I think companies need to say this is, okay, these are the people we're grooming to move up. We need to assess whether they actually truly have the skills. And if they don't, we need to get them the training that they need to be able to do that. And at that point in time, if they still don't have what it takes to move forward, then maybe we need to go look externally. But we need to at least give the people the opportunity to grow, and then assess whether they actually have the skills to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, and Johnny, you got a lot of experience in this in sales. I mean, how many times do you go into businesses and the sales manager is the person that's been in sales long?
Because that's numbers, they hit the metrics, and they were kind of put into this middle management role. When I was working at PitchBook, when the years where they were growing from 60 employees to over 600, the biggest growing pain and biggest complaints on Glassdoor was lack of knowledgeable, qualified middle management. Mm-hmm. And I fell into that category, honestly. I had no experience building teams, and here I am running Seattle, New York, and London inside sales. And the best I did was when they brought in the Fierce Institute, the Fierce Leadership Training, which is if you guys want a good book, Fierce Conversations, great leadership book. But yeah, they brought in this institute, did a month-long program, and it was called Train the Trainer. And it completely changed the way I communicate with my family, communicate with my team, and it really made all that. It really elevated everyone from that middle management role to be seen as a leader, not just a manager. Mm-hmm. But it also weeded out a few people that we realized, this based on these surveys we're doing, you're not in the best role, and we found other places for them, which is really good too.
Well, salespeople make lousy sales managers because they're miserable. They like being out there hunting. That's what they're good at. That's what they're passionate about. They don't want to be doing paperwork. They don't want to be, having to deal with other people's minutia.
No,
Right.
really, salespeople are not the detail people, but the leader needs to be, because they're measuring metrics constantly, right? They're evaluating it. So that's a different role. I would say from a recruiting perspective, when I have a client that has a new opening, I'll say, is there anyone internal being considered? The really good ones will, like Energage, they always know. But there are some that, we didn't think about that. And then I always tell them, even if they do have it, they should be looking at external people as well. Because what you want to do is hire the best person for the position. You don't want to put too much of a strain on the organization to bring someone up to speed when you have someone that could probably come in and make an impact.
But you also need to go back, and when you hire somebody from outside, you need to be able to communicate why that person was brought in instead of hiring from within. You have to go back and say, this is why we brought this person in. They have a talent skill that we brought in that we just didn't have in house, and this is going to help you as a team be better because they have skills that we just don't have inside. Yeah,
transparency is really important. The feedback, and then making sure they understand if they want to get to the next level, here's what they need to do, and here's where we're going to help you.
Yeah, we've created an apprentice program from our business development reps into an account executive role. And that works really well because those are early career professionals and we're giving them a path to that next step. But it's harder for us in some of those more specific roles. If you've got someone in marketing that wants to get to a level where they might be the only person doing that skill and we need an expert in it. So I think it's just, again, going back to being honest about your capabilities as a company. So we know that for those early career professionals in a sales track, we're a great company for them. For people that are trying to get to a different level in marketing, we may not be the best resource for that person. So it's knowing that about your company and then being honest about that in the recruitment process.
Okay, sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
I was just going to say to both of your points, if you have someone internally that applies, that you're it's more like a courtesy interview, they're not a fit, you should be really direct with them if they're not going to be a fit anywhere else. Like, it's a hard conversation, but that's the right thing for the employee. And that's what we're talking about. Like, how do you take care of your, and you could say, we'll support you. If you decide that you need to make a move, we will support you in your effort. And we will make a transition plan for you if that's what you want to do. Yeah. Because that sends a really good message to that employee and to the other employees that the person's going to talk to eventually, right? So you have to do, even if they don't really get there, you're not trying to help them, you have to be really honest with them.
Well, exactly. And if you help that person transition, even if it's outside your company, if you help them transition to the other company and help them transition effectively, first of all, they're not leaving as a disgruntled employee. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be talking smack about you. And they may go somewhere, learn a whole bunch of new skills that might make them available, that when you're looking for that VP of marketing, 5 years down the road, and you've kept a good relationship with that person, you may want to bring them back, and all of a sudden, bring them way up the ladder because they've gone somewhere else. They've gotten different skills. They've learned new things. They've been trained on somebody else's dime. They still understand your culture. They understand the history of your company. Maybe it's time to bring them back and really elevate them up into a different role.
Well, the other factors, we're touching on learning, a lot. And I think, talented people, want an environment where they grow and learn as well. It's not there. They're not just there to get the check. That's a factor, of course, but, and I think you're getting into that here a little bit and talk about that. Maybe we could.
Yeah, we have
the check is table stakes.
A really good question from Connie. Connie was saying when the company has a promote from within strategy, which I feel like every tech startup says that, how do you manage that process when everyone is trying to move up. You know, everyone's kind of comparing themselves to each other. I'd say from my experience, it has to be, it's all about the data, and it has to be quantitative and qualitative, and that it should have a discernible difference amongst the people, and you can see when and why people are moving. How do you manage that process when everyone is like, oh, we're going to all get promoted?
I think you have to build it into your coaching conversations with your managers, and you have to understand what that means for each employee, because not every employee wants to, move up. We all want to learn and grow, but that doesn't necessarily mean they want to move up. Of course, we all want more money. I think we all agree on that, but it's identifying what that means for that individual. Mm-hmm. And then trying to find a way for them to achieve that. And it may be that they are working on a project, a cross-functional project where they're gaining exposure or knowledge, or you've identified an opportunity for someone within the organization or outside the organization to mentor them. So you've got to this is where you have to get to know your employees and what's important to them. Yeah. And be honest if that opportunity is not there, and make it a great transition, because they will boomerang. We've had that happen.
Yeah. Two things. What does success look like to the individual employee? Yeah. And number two is, what's your onboarding process? As you're bringing people into the organization, say, this is how we promote from within. This is how we do it. This is why. These are the things that we're looking for. And, promotion may not be a title bump. It may be a lateral move. And this is why. And what it's going to do is, we're going to give you more authority, be able to give you more authority, maybe give you some more money, but it may not be that title bump. And explain to people that the title bump isn't everything.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. Great point, Ben. I just have to say, Kelly's got to jump off at 11:59. I want to thank her before she has to jump off. Awesome stuff. Yeah. We've got one more question, Johnny. I think
someone bringing up this chat. Hiring for the future. A small business, they have a vision for the next 5+ years, and they're looking for folks that will work now, but fill a role at a later time as well. So, how would you address that hiring for the future?
Kelly, go for it.
I was saying goodbye. So I wasn't. Check out, and people were sending me notes. Sorry, as a bad.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, Lisa. I'm sorry, Kelly.
So it's a balancing act where you're hiring for what you need now, but the future. So you've got to sit down, conversation, and identify what they need to know, and maybe their certifications or trainings that they need, and so work with them on what that plan is for them. I think I've seen this go really well, and I've seen it not go so well, because if the expectations are not aligned, then it doesn't go well. So you've got to be really clear about the expectations, but also I can't imagine, if someone was in that process during COVID, things happen and change. So you've got to be honest and have those conversations and set the right expectations.
Yeah. I always do.
Good.
Sorry, Andrew. I always say to clients, when they hire me, my job is to screen out and not in. So to bring in the right talent. So if I can scare someone away with the truth on the phone, that's great. So it's not about selling and pushing in. That's what a lot of recruiters do. And that's how you end up with the wrong talent and turnover. So it's got to be about what that person, what their needs are, and make sure it aligns with what the needs of the company are.
Yeah, I tell people hire for personality and mindset, and the skills become a secondary thing. I mean, whether you can program in C++ or Java isn't going to matter in 5 years, because guess what? The language is going to change. It's people that can problem solve. It's the people that can listen, the people that can extrapolate, people that can think laterally. Those are the people that are going to be able to grow with you, not people that have a specific skill set, and that's all they have.
Those are the best clients. But not many people think like that, Ben.
Cool. Well, I tell you, we're running up to the top of the hour, and I get so excited. And I don't know if you saw it a couple minutes ago. I was just sitting here thinking, man, great panel again today. This is awesome. And the energy that you guys brought today, the questions from the audience are just incredible once again. And man, everyone, I am just so blessed to be able to have this group of people come together, the people come on the panel. I do want to do a quick shout out though. Last night I was on a Zoom call with JD Gershbein and a couple other excellent experts he has, talking about Zoom calls and increasing the quality of those. It was just absolutely phenomenal. So if you see JD with one of those again, get on it. It was cool as heck. Enjoyed it so much. But this is so important now. We've got tons of people that are in the market that weren't there 3 months ago. I think we just got to take care of that and do it. And with that, if let's see if Andrew's going to be back on to do the conclusion or not, but I will conclude today because we are at 8:58. We always stop at 9 o'clock if we absolutely can. Thanks for coming. We have not completely finalized the agenda for next week, but we will have that done by tomorrow. And we'll get that back out again. As usual, we'll be on YouTube with this on Saturday or Sunday, so you can see the repeat. And if you've got any questions, go ahead and hit me on LinkedIn or just email me. I think most of you have that. Thanks, everyone, for coming on.
That's it.
Well, I'm going to let Andrew finish us up then.
That's it.
Well done, Andrew.
All right. We're going to go back to the tables, and we're going to continue the conversation as long as people want to. But, man, awesome
We'll see you
stuff,
at the bar.
awesome questions. Thank you very much.